Hello, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to another wonderful Monday night. Thank you so very much for taking time to join John, Cubbie, and myself. We greatly appreciate you and all that you have. All right, this has been a great show. Everybody have a good night.
Wait, sock puppet
Oh,
time.
oh, sock puppet time?
Oh, I forgot my
I was
sock.
just trying to get done so people could like go watch the NASCAR race.
What?
Yeah, it's the cars that go around in a
NASCAR?
circle.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Turn left, turn
Paint,
left, turn left.
paint, dry. Woo!
Yeah, but this is the one where they always crash.
Oh, okay, sure. Paint, run. Woo!
If everybody's truly honest, and there's some great driving. I mean, they were amazing, but they kind of watch it for the crashes, kind of like watching hockey for the
For the
fights. I
fights,
mean,
pretty much, yeah. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about ceremonies. We're going to get into that, but we're not going to get there first. We're going to start off. Have you guys? Mex is today was day one. They haven't opened up the exhibit hall yet. That happens tomorrow, tomorrow evening. Have you guys heard any rumblings of any kind of gear out there that people should be kind of watching out for?
no,
So there's
just got
Not
FOMO.
well, no, I take it back. I take it back. So there has been a couple different pieces that I know are getting debuted. So Danny Max has talked about them, and I think one of them he actually finally revealed. It's like a new curved duo, but it's got a DSLR in it. So it's like you have the ability to walk around, but you got the camera built in, which is before you only could do the iPad. He's got something else that he hasn't revealed. But he kind of teased that those are coming at MEX. And then the only other one that I know of, and it got leaked and then it got shared out was Moby, the Moby booth.
mm-hmm.
So Moby photo booths, they now have a rolling DJ booth.
Oh,
Um, and some people have said it's a knockoff of Toads. There's a lot of similarities in some pieces to it, so I could see where that might be the case. But in the same respect, it's rolling booth. There's only so many different ways you could probably set it up. So, tomato, tomato. But no, those are the only things that I've heard about.
The only thing I would
But
add to that,
I don't
actually,
have the insider trading like John does.
yeah, the
So,
only thing I'd add to that has been talked about so far is the robotic controlled photo booths that'll be available out there. We've seen the
oh, I guess
360,
yeah.
and in the past, there's been the 360 is basically what they're doing with that is where you stand on it and it goes around. And some are mechanical going around. Some of them you give it a whoosh and it goes around and does its thing. So there's 360s out there at different price points. When we would go, there were some different prototype things where it was a wall or a row of about 50 DSLR cameras, and basically it would be like back and forth as these cameras are going, taking pictures. It wasn't realistic for any person in a mobile situation if you're doing weddings and such. But now the robotic control and I have not seen any, but what I've heard from this is it's taking that whole idea of similar to a camera, like a movie camera operator, where they're on a boom and they can bring the thing in and move it around. So you're getting the movement somewhat similar to a 360, except it's not going all the way around. It's coming in from different angles and you're following it, and it's like having a drone basically in your as a photo booth. So that
now is
should
it
be.
ran on? Do you know if it's ran on a program or do you have to run it yourself? And how do you not bonk somebody on the head? And if you're
Yeah.
running it yourself,
Well, maybe that's part of the fun, is that you put little points on it so when it pokes somebody that they'll know it.
yeah.
Branding irons or something so your logo can be embedded into their forehead. Oh, that would be so much fun. No, no.
It looks like a scissor lift though. Like you mentioned that I did remember seeing something like a small scissor lift, when you're like for putting stuff into the rafters. That's what it kind of looks like with the arm attached, and it just kind of came in. So there's not a lot of. It didn't seem like there was a lot of left to right movement. Like one of the big problems with the 360 is you have a lot of left right movement, or all the way around, and so you almost have to block off a big spot. This you could block off where they're going to be and not really have to worry about it hitting anybody the same way. But it did seem like to be a bit cumbersome, I would think, still for the mobile aspect, unless I was seeing every year there's like one company or like one idea that 12 people do. That might be this year's.
And the particular person I talked to was actually it was someone I banned from from. They were sharing it because they're not actually going to be at Photo Booth Expo, but they're going to post, and of course, if you're not there, you can't be you're not supposed to be posting your gear for sale. So then they reached out and it's like, can't I? Why did they get deleted? It's like, well, are you an exhibitor? No. You can't. Well, this is what I have, and they were talking. I asked some questions about it, and so I think you're going to see a variety of different robotic control. Maybe they're going to be just as you say, Dan, a scissor lift and going up and down. So it's like whoa, that kind of a thing. But they were talking. They compared it to if you were intimately pictured with a drone, is what they had said. That with the way they described the movement. So. And I guess really now that I'm thinking about how they worded it, intimately pictured with a drone, that could be really weird and kinky.
Yeah.
Well, last year I remember they had like there was one company that had a drone that did it for you. Like you could it was like a self-programmed drone, almost did like the 360, but with a drone piece as opposed to a moving arm.
Mm.
And then there was another one that was like a 360, but rather than down at the bottom, it was like on trussing and it went from a top, like a
Yeah.
top angle.
Yeah, I remember seeing that one, and it just really. We've seen a lot of people who aren't at Photo Booth Expo who've been asking the last few days about, hey, should I add a photo booth to my business? I love it. I'm just starting out. I'm going to start doing shows pretty soon. And I was just wondering if I should jump into the photo booth thing right away, too. And it's like, oh, goodness gracious. No,
Everybody
no,
has one. Yeah.
no, there's a
Yeah.
lot out there. There's a lot of competition. Get into and become proficient in one area before you start doing 10, 15, 20 different things. kids, and they've got the credit card. And
Mm.
it's probably more accurate with a lot of those. So yeah, thank you guys for joining us tonight. By the way, when we're done tonight, hanging with Howie's going to be back in the room tonight. So that'll be at djntv.com/chill. That'll be going on at 10 o'clock Eastern tonight after tonight's show. So guys, I wanted to talk about ceremonies and specifically amplifying or miking the officiants. That's a big thing a lot of people are asking about. And what I've been seeing more and more of is people talking about using these little. I've seen people talking about these little Bluetooth transmitters, trying to use those for officiants and trying to get away with some of the knockoff little devices that are out there. There's Comica that has some that are pretty decent, depending upon which line you get. But there's some things out there for $19.99, and people are like, yeah, I've got that. It works great for officiating. So Cubbie, I know you do quite a bit of officiating. Dan, I know you've done some sound for officiating, and you've got your ceremony sound system. And I've got a couple of things to look at tonight. Initially, I was thinking we were going to do some audio, but I ended up having to run to St. Cloud this afternoon, so I didn't get a chance to hook all my stuff up. So there's going to be a video that'll be dropped. I'll be putting that together later this week. That will have some of the showing you what this one can do, and this one can do, and this one can do, and you can actually listen to us as we're walking away, giving you distances, so you know that, wow, if I'm here and the officiant and everyone's about 100 feet ahead of me there, it's not going to work. You'll find that out with some of the gear we're going to be talking about tonight. So, first off, if somebody's looking for a microphone for ceremony, Cubbie, I'm going to start with you because you probably do more ceremonies than Dan and I together. When they're looking for a microphone for the officiant, what is your kind of go-to?
I go with Old Reliable. I've been an EV fan. I use the EV RE3s. Are you talking microphones? What I use, or when I officiate, what I prefer?
Which ones you would use when you're doing sound, whether you're officiating or someone else's? What's your go-to?
My reliable, seriously, is Electro Voice RE3s. Just never drop out. It's just always worked really well for me. I get nervous when new things come out that are kind of untested. So I feel that ceremony is one of the single most important things that people remember. I mean, if we play a bad song, we can roll out of it quickly. It's not going to be in their memories, but that ceremony will remember. It's just they're going to remember if a dropout. It's gonna be if it's horrible. It's all eyes on you. It's hard to recover from that. It really is. So stick with the reliability. Stick with invest in quality sound gear. And that's what I stick with.
Dan, what's your
So if we're talking brand, I use the Sennheiser. I'm using G3s. Lav pack. I had G4s for when I upgraded for some handheld stuff, but for my ceremony system, I'm running belt packs that are still G3s. So
And my
And
go-to
Sennheiser just as good.
exactly, and my go-to for the longest time was Shure, the ULX series microphones. They I had four of them together, so I could use any combination of 4 handhelds or 4 belt packs. And no matter which microphone system I get, I basically bump the mic element part up. So my Shure, I had the 87As as the mic element compared to the SM58 type mic element. But as much as I love my Shure, I wanted to get a little bit more transmission power and the ability to adjust the transmission power, which took me to the RE series stuff. And of course, Sennheiser also has that capability to go and to have a high power or low power setting on the transmitters and such. So both of those are definitely great options. But I went with the Electro Voice versions because I wanted to have the element, mic element. I stepped it up, so I have the handheld, and then I did the belt pack and the Lavs and such, the higher end of those also. So I have a variety of tools in my toolbox depending upon the application. So Cubbie, you mentioned, of course, the RE3 system. Are you using just a handheld, or are you using
Oh, belt
Lavs?
packs. Yeah. Oh, always belt packs. I do have a handheld in case somebody's reading a passage or a poem, or singing during the ceremony. So I always have one readily available. And that's in my consultation. Do you have anybody else speaking other than an officiant? So I know to have one available. So I'm not surprised with anything. But yeah, they're all belt packs. I never been a fan of having the ones that could, like, the theater mics, I guess you would say, the
Sure.
countrymen's. Every officiant's different, so one might have a fat head, one might have a small head. If it gets stretched out, it just, I don't know. Just the old law, man. The mics, belt packs.
Mm-hmm. Dan, what's yours? What are you using most often?
so remember the theater one he was just talking about?
Yep.
That's what I use for my officiant. So I have a Countryman mic. The E6 I think is the
Yeah.
actual
Yep.
model number. I used to use the Lavs, and I'll be honest with you, I am so glad I no longer use those. I
Oh,
freeze. I use a lot for my groom, because it's easy to put on the suit. It picks up typically the other one, this spouse, pretty well. If it's a bride, right, it's kind of hard to hide a mic on a dress, or at least she's already dressed by the time I get there, like, and I'm not miking her up otherwise. Um, but so, like, there's that aspect. But no, for the officiants, it's the over the ear. It's a single ear piece, right? There's our styles that go around to both ears. This one is just the single one. It basically they just kind of molds around the ear that they squeeze it on, and then it comes down. I love it because it's so controllable, right? It sounds amazing, and I that does not give me feedback.
Nice.
A Lav has given me feedback.
Yes.
And so that's been one of the reasons why I love going to it. Plus, I was dealing with some female officiants, and nothing against female officiants, but if somebody's going to wear jewelry, it's typically a female officiant. And despite me telling them that I'm going to have a Lav microphone attached to the top, they wear a necklace that's dangly and they refuse to take it off. And then what happens when they move?
Clink, clink, clink. Yep.
Right. So this over the ear works really well. Sometimes you do have to worry about if you have a officiant that has a beard. Like, sometimes it gets a little scruffy in there, so you do have to play with it a little bit. But
Mm-hmm.
that's my favorite.
interesting.
So I stayed away from the headset because I don't have one for this, but I do have a headset that I actually had picked up just about a month ago or so and did a little video on, that will work with the no, it won't work with Eevee. Excuse me. It'll work with my Sennheiser packs, the same Sennheiser packs that I used to jump from my main system to the remote speakers. I have multiple of those packs, and it can also be used for running, audio from the and the lav mic, so I could use it for that. So I do have one I could use, but my preferred is handheld. But when I do have to go lav, I've got the little, and these are the Countryman version of it, which is a super sensitive microphone. The thing I found out, and as Dan was mentioning about feedback, can be a real bear when it comes to lav mics. I had a situation where we were doing ceremony where we had 2 officiants, And one was Grandpa. Grandpa wanted a lav mic, and the other officiant was a rabbi. And the rabbi was going to be singing and doing some of the traditional things, which meant that he would go from this talking level to all of a sudden this big, huge chanting level. And he had warned me early on. He goes, "This is what's going to happen, and I'll give you an example." And he did. And it's like, oh my gosh, having a lav. He was blowing. He literally blew. There were times where he and Grandpa were standing next to each other because they're both in the front, and the lav picked up so much of his loud, because he had a big booming voice, a great voice indeed. The handheld could handle it. It could handle those highs and lows, and you didn't hear it all of a sudden like it was clipping. The lav, no matter what I did, I could not make it work with him. And he said, "This is the way it is." He goes, "I don't think I've ever used a lav at a ceremony. We've tried numerous times." He goes, "I'd love to have a lav, so I have two hands, but they just don't work for him." So handheld worked, and having a handheld and the two together function together. When we were trying to do the two lavs and it being that close, we were having nothing but issues, and we were getting horrible feedback no matter how much I was bringing those down. Ben's talked about this when you have two of them open and it's a 3 dB up or down or gain or whatever, or you lose 3 dB, whatever. I don't know. Ben said there's something to that. When you've got two lavs that are in the same vicinity and open at the same time, all I know is it didn't work very well. so I handheld and that, or multiple handhelds have worked very, very well over time. So, but yeah, my go-to most of the time is handheld. Handheld, and it, because it seemed like this last year we had wind, a breeze most of the time. He was handheld with a foam piece over the end of the microphone, over the element, because we were having so much breeze, and he had to do something to cut that off. Otherwise, you were hearing shh through the ceremony.
Do you put on a stand?
I have. It depends if the officiants are wanting a stand. I have it with, and it's literally over by my little table. And it's like, okay, I've got it ready. Do you want? No, I'd rather hold on to the handheld, or they put it in their book and such. And because of the quality elements, it picks up pretty well before we get feedback issues. So I haven't had a real problem with that. But many of them are just, they're like, yeah, I don't want to stand. I just want to hold it. I'm going to read, and then I can talk and point and gesture, and it's like, okay, whatever works for you.
Yeah, in my area, we get a lot of non-professional officiants, meaning in the state of Iowa, anybody can marry anybody. My cousins, I guess. No, I'm just kidding. But what I mean is, like, you can have a friend or family member marry you, and they don't have to register at the courthouse. They don't have to do anything. They just have to mail in the paperwork. So a lot of times they're already looking down, reading their notes because they're not very well versed, like a professional officiant, a pastor, a rabbi, a man of the cloth. And so them having a handheld and a mic and on a stand, it just sometimes for me, like I said, I like the law because they're already 9 times out of 10 already looking down, looking at their notes,
and it would definitely make sense. Yeah,
the handhelds can be nice, like just from the standpoint, like they're the ones that are going to be a little bit more forgiving. They're the ones that if they're a little bit farther away, you can boost without really having to worry too much about feedback. If you have a directional microphone, especially like I said, if you're doing a stand, it's great. The biggest obstacle that you always run into is the one that, especially the non-professional, that instead of holding it here, decides to hold it down at their belly button. And there's not much you can do in some of those cases. I like, one of the other reasons why I like either using the lav or using the boom style mic is the lav. You can get kind of creative, and John in the chat mentioned the dead cat, right? Like that's the windscreen cover. I'm not a fan of the way they look, but they kill wind. Like there's no, I've yet to seen one that does any better than that. At taking that wind piece out. But one of the things I've gotten creative with, and because I never picked up the dead cat ones, is taking a lav and actually sticking it underneath the tie. Right. So it doesn't give you the exact, you're not going to get this crisp or whatever, but you're not going to have the wind noise the same. And then the other thing is with the boom one, because it comes to about right here, one of the things that I'll do when I'm doing my sound check is I'll kind of get a feel for where's the wind coming from. And if it's coming from this side, I put it on this ear. And if it's coming from this side, I put it on this ear.
Sure.
And it's not ideal, but it works much better than trying to just put wherever and then deal with it.
Yeah, if you have to fight with a direct wind on it, that would be a good idea. Definitely a good idea. When you've with the headset, kind of, I think Cubbie was kind of alluding to that people aren't excited about the idea of wearing a headset. Have you run into that as anybody who's like, I'd rather not wear a headset type of thing?
I have more, I'd rather not have a microphone
Mm,
than I'd rather not have a headset.
yeah.
There's a lot of the officiants sometimes that I'll work with, and they're just like, oh, I don't need a microphone. They'll hear me. And usually my response is, I know, but I'm recording this for the bride and groom. And so then they're kind of like, oh, I guess I can't argue with that. And so that's always just been my like default is I'm recording it. So I need to have the microphone. And so usually they're pretty okay with that. Once in a while I've had ones that are like, I'm not really sure about this, like I've never used this style. And then I've had another one, I would consider him more of a younger officiant. He wasn't younger than me, but he was kind of very polished. And I got the impression that at his church, he's using that style every week because he was just like, at first, he was like, can we bring ours? And I'm like, I don't know if I'll plug into my belt pack, but sure. And we got there and he saw what I had. And he goes, yeah, we can use yours. We're good.
Yeah, he must use about the same thing, at the
Yeah.
church.
It was a little bit different. His, because he had his with us, his was the 2 year.
Oh
Like
yeah.
it was one mic, but it was over 2 years. But we couldn't, the end, even though it was they plugged it into Sennheiser, must have a different type of connection than what my belt pack did.
Hmm.
So
Interesting. Yeah, there are two different headset. There's the tip ring sleeve and a tip sleeve, with that can both plug into the Sennheiser. One will work, one doesn't. And then even the tip ring sleeve version can be wired two different ways, which could be either any of those combination to cause issues. Yeah, they are a pain. They are
How do you guys
definitely.
mic up women? I know what I do, and I don't. I'll share afterwards because I'm sure we'd all do the same. How do you mic up a woman with a live?
I've
Just for
never
newbies.
Yeah, I've never mic'd up a bride. And this is
No,
not
about a female officiant.
a
We're
female
gonna go female
officiant.
officiant.
Lav pretty much the same way, but most of the women that I worked with that I have used a lav with were wearing a jacket, and it became a lapel, true lapel, and she ran it down inside her jacket and into the back to her skirt or slacks, whichever, and either did a pocket connect the pack in the back of her skirt or into the back pants pocket.
Oh.
It worked very, very well to do that. The only problem that I felt I had with that, and this is one of the reasons why I moved away from the Shure, is that when I was at a distance and now I have a body, it's low, and now I have at least one body between the belt pack and my receiver. So moving to the going from the Shure to the Electro Voice, I can set that belt pack on a higher transmission power, and then with the larger antennas on the EV, I haven't had when we did it this, I didn't have a problem with it. I hope that means that I won't have any problem with it going forward, but whatever.
Dan, what do you do?
I have the boom mic.
Oh
So
yeah.
so it goes right into the belt pack, and then the belt pack,
How do you
if
mount the
they're
belt pack if they're not wearing a robe or a jacket? What do you do?
so if they don't have a belt of some sort for it to attach to, I've attached it to the back of their shirt, at like the top of the back
Yeah.
of their shirt, right in there. I've had a couple where, like it was a like a loose fitting blouse on the back type of thing, and she's like, "I can do something if you're okay with it." And I said, "As long as I'm not the one who's about to do what I think you're gonna do." And so she went and had her husband click it to her bra strap in the back.
Yeah, I bring it. I do the same thing. I hook it to the back of the shirt, bring it up underneath the armpit. I let them bring it though. I don't kind of do it myself. And I'm like, okay, just place it there, and I let them kind of put on themselves. But just in case there's any new DJs out there that might be doing ceremonies and may come across a female officiant that might not know how to mic them and be like, oh, I don't know what to do. Um,
I would also make sure that you're having that conversation with your officiant. One of the things that you should be gathering information from is the officiant and reaching out, whether it's a female, whether it's a guy, whether it's whatever, have that conversation with them so that they're aware of what you're bringing. Because also you mentioned robes, right? I've had some guys that have been in full robe attire, and that becomes difficult depending upon, how it's run, like judges, same type of thing. Like if they're doing their robe, it can be a tough piece. So just being aware of what they're gonna have and what you're gonna have, and making sure they work together.
And that was only for like newer guys who were just starting and maybe watching the show or
And I think a great point of having them run wires is especially even with guys nowadays, or same if I'm a guy trying to mic a guy, it'd be better for them to run the wires through their personal space than to have me do it. Doesn't mean that person couldn't help if absolutely needed, but it would be better to have, as Dan said, the spouse help, and we can tactfully turn around or whatever and give them some privacy as they run wires and scooch them through whatever it works. So yeah, it gets to
Have
be.
either of you mic'd? I'm gonna go bride. Have you either of you had to mic a bride?
No, I've never done that,
Okay.
and that's been
oh,
intentional, not because of the white, um, because the they wanted the groom, because the bride's like, I will talk, you will hear me. I found that the guys have been quieter, so we have Mike the guys, and then we get their softer voice, and that the female voice, she comes through, and it's a little bit stronger, and not all the time. I mean, there's times where they've been very quiet and kind of caught up in a moment also, but the lav, that especially that little countryman, it picks up so well on the groom's lapel. It catches both of them.
so Dan, what do you do if they wrote their own vows and they're repeating them? How do you, because I share with my officiant, like, okay, you can take the lav off and just kind of pull it out like here and go back and forth, as they're reading their own vows. And then it's just take a minute and just clip it right back on. There'd be no harm, no foul. With a countryman and they have it here, how would you get them to be able to hear? And you don't, and you say you didn't mic a groom. Maybe a DJ hasn't done that yet. Hasn't got two battery packs or whatever just yet. How would they do that?
So I mic the groom. So that's
Sure.
my kind of way around. I would say that if you are set on only bringing a single microphone, like if that's your plan, is to bring one microphone, whether because that's where you're starting or whether that's where you're at, I would say at that point I would probably recommend a handheld. I would recommend a handheld, and the reason being is because if I prefer a handheld on a stand, but even if so, like if the officiant's having it, they can hold it for both of those people, and then if somebody's doing a poem or a reading or a scripture or whatever, like they can hand the microphone off. Like that's going to be your most versatile piece. That's going to be your most versatile piece. Um, Whether it's the best long term is kind of what we're talking about tonight. But if you only have one, that's where you're going to probably want to begin.
And again,
I
we
would.
we we have DJs from all across the spectrum, new, old, very
Oh yeah.
experienced, some inexperienced. So just trying to.
No, that's good. Good.
The reason why I brought up the female is, and John, you started to mention that just a moment ago. I've had a couple in the past year where one of two things happened. So they like there was the get caught up in the moment, right? But I've also had a couple that were just more soft spoken. And then I had one where I almost wondered if she was afraid of the groom. Like I jokingly say that, like
Mm-hmm.
not legitimately afraid, but like they were not close together, right? Nobody told them to hold hands while they're at the front of the ceremony. And if they had, their arms would have been like fully extended, right? They just weren't going to get anywhere near each other. Um, so I've considered like, would it be worth it to pick up, to pick up one, to pick one, and I keep going back and forth on it, and I've had a lot of my friends who are just like, "That's ridiculous. You don't need it," and I agree that I don't need it, but sometimes I just wonder, man, how much better could this product be? How
Mm-hmm.
much better could what I'm doing be if I had that? And just having that kind of piece to it. I know Lou Harris, he recently I think just this past season picked up a couple that he was doing when he was miking a bride, and he talked about how he did it, and it requires a little help from the bridesmaids. and a little understanding that we're all professionals here, and if that's not good, then I'm probably not going to be able to help out with you
Mm-hmm.
this part. So
Dan, I just sent you a link that I'm going to have you share, so that way we can all see it. When
yeah,
there'll be a couple of different links that'll be rolling through here.
sure.
So we've kind of covered, kind of the basics. Now I want to get into one of the reasons, and kind of circling back to really how Cubbie started this out, talking about getting the professional quality gear, because that's really going to be important for that, from the ceremony, from the standpoint is that this is a one and done. If it doesn't work, there's no redos. You can't go up there and say, "Whoa, wait, just a second. I gotta go and change microphones and give you a different one." No, it doesn't. That doesn't work. It kind of loses the for the day. And of course, a lot of folks have been talking about trying to do this on the cheap. Some of the systems that we've been talking about tonight, even an inexpensive, if you're looking at the RE3 systems, you get two of them, whether it's two handhelds or a belt pack and a handheld. You're probably into a $2,000, Cubbie. Am I?
Yeah, well, they're about $863 a piece, I think.
Because I ended up because of the more expensive mic element, that cost more, and then my little Sennheiser microphone was like $250 or $70 or something like that, and then buying this stupid belt pack was another $5 million. By the time you're done, I've got a lot of money into that ceremony system. Sounds great. So anyway, people are like, hey, let's find something cheaper. And this Comica that Dan, what you've got there, Dan, if you want to pop that, can you pop that up for us? If it pops, there we go. So that little unit is one of the people talk about an awful lot. There's two variations, or there's two that are most commonly talked about. This Comica version. There's a Rode Wireless Pro, and then DJI also has come out with those. But I wanted to start here because price point wise, this is the most attractive price point wise. I have demoed this particular unit and I have used it around. But one of the big things, Dan, if you could scroll down a little bit on that image, I want to get to into the description of the item there on the kind of the middle area. Coming in at the 2.4 gigahertz, which means that obviously if there's a lot of internet things and a lot of telephones and things, that could be a problem. But the 150-foot stable transmission, that's my huge concern. Because with these, it's really kind of designed to use as a lav, which means that transmitter is going to be down in someone's pocket most likely. It's not going to be up on a shoulder. It's not going to be held above their head. It's going to be low. Then you as a ceremony may be off to the side or in the back. So this could be a situation where it's transmitting from about 3 to 4 feet off the ground, transmitting possibly through one or dozens of bodies to get to me in the back, which could be my receiver could be 4 feet off the ground, or 3 to 4 feet off the ground on a table, because that little box on the very left of that is the receiver, and then you run a little 1/8-inch jack to your board. It can function, but that 150 feet in a real world application, I would say more realistically is about half of that. And that even could be pushing it as you add more bodies to it. And that's a huge concern when I look at this. If I would be doing something where I was like, they were right there in the front and I was just off to the side, so we're looking at 30 feet line of sight, I probably would have more confidence in something like this. If I'm looking at me being in the back of the church or up in the top of the church, or if I'm, we're outside and I'm in the back of the audience so that I'm not in any pictures, no matter what angle they're shooting, I don't know if I would trust this. Thoughts, guys?
Man, yeah, anytime you put 100 bags of water between you and anything and when I say bags of water, that's people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You put, you're to the left or right and you got 50 bags of water soaking up your, and when they all stand, when the bride walks down the aisle and, before they tell them to please be seated, they do that little intro or whatever. You could be dropping out a ton with that, I think, because I don't know what the receiver looks like, but I know my EVs the antennas on them they bring in low flying planes if I had to.
Yeah, there's literally right there it is, and there is no
that's
antenna.
The receiver.
Yep.
Yeah, there's no antennas to even help. So like I said, my EV RE3, has like really long antennas that I could bring in a small airplane probably with that thing.
And even the transmitting packs here from Electro Voice and Sennheiser, same thing. They do have a little bit of a whip antenna, and then of course you've got the receiving units that have
The receiver ones I'm talking about that has
the
the super
big,
tall ones.
yeah, they've got
Yeah,
those big quarter. Was it quarter wave or half wave?
I think they're half.
Halfwave
Yeah.
is the tall ones. Quarter is the what comes with.
Okay, so
Yeah,
yeah,
I get the half.
yeah, I've got the longer ones also. So that is one option. Dan, if you could pop open the next. So people talk about the Rode stuff is something I use an awful lot with the different things. I've got the Wireless Go 2 and the Wireless Pro. I have both of those. Now you see the difference is now we're stepping up to more expensive, and I'll give you guys, there will be a link here in just a second that Dan will pop that up. But what you're seeing is a real noticeable bump in quality of the pieces. I would say that the ME is going to be probably more compatible to what we just looked at, and then we get into the Go 2 and then the Pro. You get more range, you get more capability. Dan, scroll just a hair bit. I want to see a little bit more of that. Step right there. The big one I love with this, my personal, why I've gone with the Wireless Pro and that's become the favorite, is that little headphone monitoring. To be able to see what's going on and to be able to actually listen to it as it's feeding into my device has been huge for what we do. Now, as a ceremony, you're going to be able to hear it in most cases, so it's probably maybe not as important for that. But the little Rode units are absolutely a fabulous little one. Wouldn't you know?
Okay.
There we go. I was going to say, there's when you buy them, they come in two of these little clamshell things. And yeah, they're just really nice little units, and I'm a huge fan. We'll look at those. We can look at those a little bit more here once we get done.
Can somebody decipher the 260 meters compared to the
260 meters.
150 feet? Give me 50 feet.
Well, 150 feet is 50 meters. So just the wireless ME is supposed to be able to go roughly 300 feet, a little over 300 feet. So at 260, you're talking 2.5 football fields type of thing over that. I'm going to be more. I'd be more realistic with that. You're 2.5 football fields, so we're talking 600, 700 feet is what you're going to be somewhere. Is what they're saying an optimal situation. I only want it to go 150 feet at most, and I would feel more comfortable giving this a shot at doing that. But I also am back to the same situation: is that this comes with the lav and everything, so it itself could be a lav as the Comica could. But most of the time, you want the smaller mic element by the officiant or whatever, and then they can put the transmitter in the pocket. The same thing happens here with the Rode, is it's going to be in the pocket, so that 50 to 100 bags of water between the transmitter and the receiver is still a real thing. Because Dan, pop to the Amazon one of this, if you would, please, because there's no antennas on this one either. You can see when you buy it, you're getting you're getting your lab microphones there, and you got the nice little charging pack, and I love this thing. We used this at trade shows this winter, and it was just fantastic. I actually paid a heck of a lot more for it than 384 too. I think I paid $500 for it.
Wow.
But
I see a lot of videographers use these.
Yeah,
a lot.
They are just fantastic, and I've not had a problem with it. This one, I would start to hedge my bets a little bit and say, you know what, maybe I could use this one. The biggest reason I wouldn't use it is because I like those. I like to see those big antennas on my receiver. So it's like, okay, I can see that it's a potential, but is it the best option out there? I would say,
put one of these on a groom because he's not talking as much.
And that could be the thing, is that it could be used in conjunction with that. It could be used for, maybe wiring up and I do believe they have white in this also. So maybe it's a combination where you have a white one and a black one, where you can, the black tuxedo, there's that, and a white bride's dress, there's that. I mean, that would definitely be an option. And there's some capability with this that you can send out a mono signal, one in right ear, one in left ear, or you can send them as a stereo, so they're in both ears. So there's things you could do with that, and it really would be kind of a neat possibility. Would I be comfortable with it being my only mic? No, I don't think so. I would have to make sure that I have a handheld, a pro level handheld, in that mix. even if I used it on the Efficient and the Groom, I would still want to make sure I have a Handheld, a Pro Level 1 sitting right there. So Dan, if you could pop the last one up here, please. DJI has really come onto the scene, not only with their little drones, but they've also come with this one, and I'm actually surprised that it is not higher rated than it's showing here, because people have talked about absolutely loving this, and you've got videographers who are using these things and photographers, and that does actually open up another problem, is that some of the photographers and videographers that are recording, they're using versions of this, and so if they've got these and we've got these, now we've got more fighting over those same frequencies, more potential for problems. So sticking with our pro stuff is better, but this is definitely a good option. Can you scroll down so we can see? I don't remember. Mm-hmm. Oh, there it is. The range is up on the top there. I saw the range of 250, so 820 feet of range on that. Maybe that's outdoor line of sight. I think it's going to be equivalent to the Wireless Pro, the Rode Pro.
What are the, like, our professional ones? Like, what are they rated at? I feel like 820 feet is way more than what we're told like we should be able to get with our regular stuff, like with our nice ones.
Okay, let's do.
Good question, Dan.
I think I can. I think
not,
I can.
Not that I don't want to say, don't get pro, but
yeah.
Dan, I'm gonna pop you. I'm gonna pop over. I'm gonna pop up over the link so you can take a look at. You can show it, and then we'll scan for that information on the listing page. And again, many of these things, especially like when you get into Sennheiser, Shure, they're available. NLFX is the place to go. We're showing you Amazon stuff because, first off, it's easy to find the stuff. I can go and search and boom and find it. But most of the stuff, if you're going to buy it, you want to go and you want to talk to Ben from NLFX Pro or any dealer that knows your area, because there's some of these that have different frequencies, and they will make sure you get the right one. So there's some of that, like Evie, is a low version and a high version, depending upon which bands it is utilizing. They're all open bands for DJs, but in some parts of the world, some are better than the other. But we're looking at them here on Amazon. I'm not even seeing it on that Sennheiser. Do you guys see it anywhere?
Oh, I'm not.
It's not up yet. I don't see it.
Oh, sorry. Well, I didn't share the page. Hang on a second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I had that pause for a second, so now you should see it.
Yeah, I'm just scrolling.
I'm trying to scroll up on my screen and dance and scroll.
Yeah, I'm looking at my screen, and it's like, oh yeah, the way to say no one's seen what I've seen besides me. Oops.
We probably should be. I mean, if we go to the Sennheiser site, they might actually have it. Sometimes you don't get the full description in some of these.
Well, this is actually the one that I use. Now, this one I can tell you pretty much exactly, and you're probably not going to be overly excited about this, guys, but 200 feet's max.
But this is belt pack to belt pack too?
This is belt pack to belt pack. Yep, and that's basically belt pack coming out of a speaker, and going across, because this one's showing a lav on it, but I've got the connections to go XLR out of a speaker into the first one, and then it transmits to the second one, and then it goes in there. So maybe let me back up. Maybe 200 feet is because I've jumped from. I was in a city. It's not a huge town. Basically, it would be like you could get 4 cars across Main Street. The one parking, and then you've got the two roads, and then you've got another parking on the other side. So I was on the sidewalk on the one side, and I went kitty corner, and then another 100 and some feet. So yeah, we were probably 200, 225. And we had no problem with transmission issues, and trucks and cars were going through, and semis were going through, and we did not have any dropouts during that time frame. And that's the farthest I've run with that, and that was that outdoor cold weather. The only thing I do is when we do that show is we put in the Energizer lithium batteries, so when it gets cold, then the batteries don't die. But I think one of the important, for my particular use of that, is that I want those because they will transmit pretty much the full bandwidth from low frequencies to high frequencies right across the board. And yes, I have to adjust them so they don't clip because you can put too much power into them and then you start getting some issues. But overall, I'm a huge fan, a huge fan of those. Oh, I need to put a couple of links there. The road for those who want to check that out. But yeah, this is the one that I personally use for a lot of different things. And I do have I do have a lav that goes with this, and I have used it for ceremony. When we basically run that, and we ran it right into the back of one of the Evers at one of the ceremonies this year. Just plugged right in, 1/8 inch jack out of that, 1/8 inch into the unit, and off we went.
When I first started doing wireless speakers, like when I first decided I was going to put them up front, this is how I jumped from where I was at to where the speaker would be.
Nice.
So the nice thing was, like, the other nice thing about this is I was able to select an open frequency for that send, and I could also make sure that it wasn't going to conflict with my other belt packs that I was sending, signal to me. So I didn't have, I knew I was going to be safe from all of those like nuances.
And that's really why I'm a big fan of these, is because we were doing the same thing. We had to go find, we had used them at a couple of weddings throughout the summer doing different things. So once we got to town and we were setting up, we were finding interference. So we had to go find an open channel, and then it worked wonderfully. For those wondering, these were used to jump sound across streets in that town. And for microphones, I use the RE3, the Electro Voice microphones, just because I don't have handheld Sennheisers. I've got wired handheld Sennheiser, but I don't have wireless handheld Sennheiser. So, yeah, just the belt pack and Lavs is all I've got. So yeah, those are some of the things. I want to do some audio demonstrations with those that you guys will be able to hopefully get. Hopefully we'll get those shot here later this week and up for the weekend. It's kind of the goal. Any last questions or thoughts, guys?
No, like I said, I'm now interested in getting maybe possibly a Sennheiser Countryman because my REV3 won't have a Countryman mic on it, but
no, you can
put
get
it. Yes,
them.
it does. The Countryman is the mic element. You can get it to plug into your RE3s.
Yep.
Can you?
Yep.
Yes.
That's what.
Yep.
This is the pack. You've got the same pack.
Yeah.
And yeah, what? Let me show you that end. So the Countrymen, of course, they make microphones for a variety of different, and they basically have
it's an adapter.
It's an adapter. Now you'll take a look at that adapter, and you're going to look and say, "Oh, that's a Mini XLR. That's the Shure one." No, this is Shure and Evie. Basically, I think one of them has pin 2 hot. One of them has pin 1 hot. So they're opposite of each other. So if you want to have an Evie one, I mean, if I had this, if I wanted to hook this lav up to a Shure, I would have to write on the side of this Evie really tiny so I could make sure, because this will not work in the Shure. It'll fit in the Shure, but it will not work in the Shure. And that was very frustrating trying to find that, because you're seeing so many of them that's like, oh yeah, that looks like it'll fit. Nope. Talked to Ben and he's like, yeah, no, that does. For some reason these companies did that.
I'd call Ben a cat.
Yeah, and
it's not an adapter that just sticks on the end, right? Like that is the end.
It is actually. It's the very, very end of it, but it's like there's a generic adapter that the Countryman terminates to, and then you have to put the end on for whatever you need, whether it's a Sennheiser end that goes on it, or if it's a in this case Evie or a Shure or Audio Technica, whatever you're going to be hooking that in, so that way that same lav can be used for a variety of different systems. So
I'll have to look, because mine isn't. I don't think. Like, it goes down and it's right into the plug that plugs into the Sennheiser, like the tip ring sleeve stuff.
Yeah, and that's the ones I have with the Sennheiser. I don't think I have one of them.
Maybe that's it. Maybe because that is the generic piece.
Yeah, they definitely work that way. Yeah, I don't have one of those here. Yeah, nothing here. But yeah, the less expensive ones, and I don't want to be, but the ones that are kind of come with the things, that's what they do. My Shures are the same way. But when I went to go get a higher end headset for my Shure belt packs that I used to use back in the day, when I used a headset for my own personal need, it had that the headset, and then there was an adapter to go into the Shure. It's just the way it was. AKG, I think, is the company that made the microphone, and it's a great headset, great sound. I mean, I didn't sound like Madonna or Garth Brooks with the there, but I mean, I still
Brittany.
or Brittany, yeah, but still, it sounded great for what I was using it for at the time. But it was the wire, and then the wire had a generic terminator that needed whatever the particular end was. When in doubt, yes, as John said, when in doubt, call Ben. Tell him what you want, that you want something really good quality, and he will make sure you get what you need to be a professional.
But not this week.
And
He's
he'll
at
make sure
NEX.
you get the right end for it too, because that's what I got
Huge.
hit mine through.
Huge, yeah. Yeah, it's like, oh, I need a headset. Man, obviously they do this enough, so they would say, oh yes, and how do you want to terminate it? And you'd be like, I want to terminate it, so it's awesome, man. No, what kind of it? And then what generation of pack? There might be a change in that for all we know. I don't know. So it's best to call them. When in doubt, call Ben. John, we should get a T-shirt made that said, when in doubt, call Ben.
Call Ben.
Yeah, and then on the back it would say, it depends.
WWBD.
Funny.
I love it. I love it. The one thing that we didn't talk about tonight, and I'm looking at the time, so I know we can't get into this right now, but something to think about as we go forward is, as great as each of these mics are, one of the things that we talked about was the antennas. Like we talked about it real briefly. That's a key. That really is the key to just about anything. Getting a greater distance, getting the less chance of a dropout. Like if we talk about these higher end microphones, but if you get the wrong condition of where you're at, or you're in a busy area or something like that, you might need paddles, right? You might need to go to that level to be able to make sure that there's not going to be a dropout situation.
Mm-hmm.
So as much as we've talked about the different pieces, that antenna version of what you're using and how you're grabbing that is going to be key. If you got the quarter waves and they're stuck in the middle of your system underneath like 12 other things of computers and everything else, you're not going to probably get the same sound that you think you might, or not sound, but the same signal.
Yeah, same signal, and I think that's huge. So yeah, you put those paddles up there, and all of a sudden, some of the lesser quality microphones that don't have that extra power can be picked up from a much longer distance, for sure. Good point. So let's see. Tomorrow, we got a tomorrow morning show. Tomorrow night, Big Daddy's going to be coming to us from Las Vegas. And tomorrow night's show, if we have a good connection at the hotel, we may be going a little bit longer, because Big Daddy was basically going to do doing a Big Daddy social tomorrow night, and having some fun with that. So that'll be going on at 9:00 Eastern tomorrow night, and then at 10:00 Eastern tomorrow night will be the back to the Tuesday Night Music Show and such, DJNTV.com/chill, which they're doing Hanging with Howie tonight here at 10:00 Eastern. And then we're going to have a few more gear videos dropping. We've got some more things in the hopper with microphones and speakers. And yeah, so we should have a few more things for you guys to check out this week. Yay. I think it's time to go, guys.
Oh, it amazes me how fast we go every week. Like it just goes by so fast.
It does. It does. But well, on that note, thank you very much for joining us. Hopefully you learned a few things about microphones, or at least made your mind go, I need to dig into that more and not just settle for the first thing I found on my search engine. We appreciate you. Have yourself a great one, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.